Some people, including some very senior figures at the BBC, said this is the biggest crisis at the British state broadcaster for 50 years or more. Certainly, it called into question the BBC's editorial standards and the management skills of its Director General, who had only been in post for the blink of an eye before deciding he had to go.
In light of the fact that the Director General is also the Editor-in-Chief and ultimately responsible for all content, and in light of the unacceptable journalistic standards of the Newsnight film broadcast on Friday 2nd November, I have decided that the honourable thing to do is to step down from the post of Director General.
George has very honourably offered us his resignation because of the unacceptable mistakes and the unacceptable shoddy journalism which has caused so much controversy.
So how did it get to this? The first disaster was the Jimmy Savile scandal, a household name British entertainer for 4 decades, outed after his death as a serial paedophile by the BBC's biggest competitor. The BBC could have run with the story too, but it didn't, and that raised questions about whether they were covering up for him. But then they did help identify a former close aide to Margaret Thatcher as a paedophile who had molested a boy from a children's home in North Wales. Trouble was, he wasn't a paedophile and he was about to sue. Getting it wrong once was bad enough, twice, once too many.
MPs were saying, so one called him Incurious George. In other words, the idea that he hadn't asked appropriate questions, he wasn't able to ask questions, and when asked why he hadn't asked, he said, well, this is not the way the organisation works. And it left MPs kind of genuinely scratching their heads, desperate for somebody to show that they had got a grip.
The government's Department for Media described the resignation of Mr Entwistle as regrettable but the right decision. It's vital that credibility and public trust in this important national institution is restored. It's now crucial that the BBC puts the systems in place to ensure it can make first-class news and current affairs programmes. So now the BBC needs a new leader and a steadying period. Separately, in a few weeks, a government inquiry will report on press standards here too, after the phone hacking scandal. All in all, it's not been a good year for the British media. Laurence Lee, Al Jazeera, London.